On this week's podcast, we'll talk about the Star Wars Battlefront 2 beta.
We'll also share some thoughts on what else we're playing, including the newly released Cuphead.
And a big new fall release that we missed from our preview show last time.
All that and more coming up on this week's podcast. Cue the music.
Greetings, fellow gamers, and welcome to the Silent Majority Gamers podcast. This is episode number 7. I'm Limey Geek.
And I'm Insomniac Matt.
And we're happy to have you with us this week. We've got some games to talk about that we've been playing, but first up, wanted to mention a game that we missed from our fall preview episode that we did last time. A big new release that somehow slipped through the cracks, and that is FIFA 18.
Yes.
And I can't believe we missed this because, you know, it's only like the biggest sports game in the world. FIFA sells just a ton of copies every year, with football or soccer being such a huge international sport. It sells worldwide. So we missed that one, but it was released, and I was able to try it out a little bit.
And what did you think?
Well, it's it's FIFA. It is FIFA. FIFA is just solid, and it's consistent every year, right? It's a great game. Last couple of years, they've added the single player sort of campaign type stuff, which a lot of sports games are doing this year. I didn't get too far with that, but you know, it's continuing the story of your character from last year. But as far as the game goes, you know, EA does such a good job with FIFA in a number of areas, and the presentation is always such a big thing with them. From the music and the menus and the commentary, you know, the sound in the stadiums, like the crowd chants, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. They do just such a phenomenal job of that. And then the gameplay itself is solid. They tweak it every year. My only hesitation with saying how awesome the gameplay is just because I did play Pro Evolution Soccer 2018. Yeah. And for me personally, I prefer the feel of the gameplay and the actual flow of the match for PES over FIFA. That might just be a personal thing. I like that, but FIFA certainly wins for, you know, all the other off the field stuff and all the presentation and all that kind of stuff. You know, FIFA blows that away. They've got a lot more of their licensed teams and leagues and stuff compared to Pro Evolution Soccer. So looks like a great game again this year. Certainly, if you're a FIFA fan and you play it every year, you'll want to play this one. It's
kind of a given, yeah. I heard it was also a little bit more aggressive this year with the attacking. You're going to start seeing a few more goals going in.
Yeah, I didn't have too much trouble scoring. It was pretty good. I found actually the AI was more aggressive attacking as well. I got scored on, I think, more than I would normally. Well, that may have been me getting used to the defensive controls. I haven't played FIFA in a couple of years. One of the other things I really liked about this one is they've started adding the on-field training icons like they have for NHL. And they may have done this in last year, but I didn't play last year's. And the one I really like is the one for passing. Okay. It shows the movement of your thumbstick. So at the feet of your player, it shows the direction that your thumbstick is pushing, which is really handy then for aiming passes, because I don't know about you, but often when I'm playing, my I'll be holding my controller at an angle, so left isn't always left on the screen, it's kind of at an angle. So this helps you see exactly which way you're pointing your stick, and it helps you aim the passes much more accurately.
It's the Tiger Woods problem. All right, when I used to play Tiger Woods, right, and your stick is back and forth to hit.
Right, yeah.
So first couple of holes, no problem. But then you get into a groove and you're sitting, you kind of lay back a little bit more, and all of a sudden you're shanking it off to the side because you're not sitting straight.
Right.
And so that's a really cool feature. I like that. Yeah, I really like that.
That's really cool. So looking forward to maybe spending some more time with that. I'm not sure if I'll buy that one, but we have the EA access of the 10-hour trial, so we'll give that one more of a look for sure.
Yeah, it's installed, and I'm ready to start my 10-hour trial, but been a little busy with some other games.
We have, yeah. So speaking of that, we'll roll right into what we're playing, what we've been working on the last couple of weeks. Of course, we're still playing some Destiny 2, going through
did you...
If you mention Nathan Fillion one time, I will slap you.
Like hard?
Just don't go... Destiny 2 continues to be fun with the entire cast of characters. We're playing through the end game, but it's really at the point now where we're doing kind of the weekly challenges, and it just gives you a few hours to play each week and continue to grind and get the loot and stuff.
And I really like that, and it's because it suits my needs, right? I mean, we've mentioned a few times, right? We both have families and kids, and we work. So it's nice to not feel like I have to play it for 10 hours every day, like some of the other, loot grinders and things like that. So it's really nice just to be able to sit down, get an hour or two in, finish off some milestones, which, the weekly reset on Tuesdays. It plays at my pace that I like. So, I'm totally for that, and, almost ready for the DLC, but, I'll keep playing an hour or two each through the week, just to get those milestones and those weekly challenges.
Yep.
Speaking of cups, it's the best segue ever. Let's talk about Cuphead, a newly released game from Microsoft. It's a Play Anywhere title for your Xbox or your PC, and let me tells you, I loves it. Really cool. So let's get one thing out of the way first, and that's the graphics. Usually in a game, graphics are pretty straightforward. They're either great, they're okay, or they're terrible. And I found with this, people are kind of on the fence. It's, to some people, like myself, they think the graphics are absolutely amazing, where other people are like, this looks terrible. And the reason being is that they've completely mirrored and set up it in a way that I have not seen a game done before, and that is to mimic a 1930s cartoon, a la the old school Steamboat Mickey, like the first cartoons ever to come out. So graphically, you get these black film marks on it. The sound looks like, or sounds like, sorry, the sound sounds like it's been filtered through an old timey machine like 10 times over. And it looks identical to these old cartoons, and I think it's beautiful. It is gorgeous, in my opinion. So I really love that. So what is Cuphead? I'll give you a brief overview. Cuphead is a story about a dude with a cup for a head and his best friend Mugman. Greatest superhero names ever. Cuphead and Mugman. So they go out at night on a town, and they end up at the Devil's Casino, and they're playing craps and they're winning, and all of a sudden the devil shows up and says, I'll give you one more roll, and if you win, you can have all the loot in the building, but if you lose, your souls are mine. So obviously anyone with a brain, I'll cash out. No, not Cuphead. He's like, let's do it. Rolls the dice, gets snake eyes. So now the devil says, you owe me your souls, and Cuphead and Mugman are, trying to negotiate out of it. So the devil says, look, I've got a whole bunch of people who owe me, but they've taken off. So if you can go ahead and collect all these souls for me, I'll set you free. So the whole point of the game is to go around and beat these levels and collect the end boss's souls, sort of thing.
So wait, you're trading other people's souls for yours?
It's pretty heartless if you think about it that way. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing.
All right.
So I would say about 75% of the game are boss levels. You have like this overhead view of a map, and you hit little checkpoints and go into a level. And most of them are boss levels where you're just fighting one guy, or in some instances, two frogs. And once you beat them, they sign over their soul, you get the contract, you move on to the next level. I would say about 25% of those levels are what they call run and gun, which is kind of like the old school side-scrolling Mario, but boy is it difficult. It is not an easy game. They've made it very tough. Now, coming from the old school, playing the original Nintendo, I expected it to be harder from everything I heard, to be honest with you, but I mean, it's definitely difficult. But it's a fair difficult, so anytime I died, I knew why. It wasn't unfair to the point where I'm tossing the controller. It's over. I'm out of here. You could see each point as, why you're dying, and you can learn from that and get a little better. It's just a lot of stuff coming at you on screen. What I really like is that there's also a lot of things to upgrade. You can get a new special power. You can get a new, like you snap your finger and shoot a little gun. But you can upgrade that, get a triple shot. It doesn't go as far, but it does more damage, sort of thing. And it's really fun to play. I found that anytime I died, I was one of those, just one more time. Okay, just one more time. Okay, just one more time. Like, it's really fun. So I'm about halfway through it at this point in time. So I haven't quite finished it yet. But the other thing is, I already know I'm going to go back and play it again. get better scores on the bosses, get better scores on the run and gun levels and things like that. So I highly recommend the game. I can't say enough nice things about it. And it's very nostalgic when it comes to the look, the sound, and the feel of the game. So I recommend it.
Cuphead is a console exclusive to Xbox
and PC. It's a
on
Play
PC.
Anywhere title, yeah.
And it's an indie game.
Yes.
As well. You know what else is an indie game is the game I've been playing a lot of this week.
Ooh.
And yeah, you're not the only one that can segue. And that's Heat Signature. So that's been a lot of fun this week. It's kind of a difficult one to explain, but basically you play like a mercenary that's hired to break into spaceships and either steal something or assassinate someone or hijack the ship. There's various different
mission types.
Yeah. Thank you. Or activities that you have to do, and the gameplay is it's a top-down thing. And when you get into the ship, the mechanic is such that you can pause time at any point. That's the real hook here. So it lets you decide what you want to do and carry out many different actions within the space of a second or two, right? So, for example, you can walk into a room, walk up behind a guard, and maybe knock him on the head with a wrench and knock him out. And then you can quickly turn and shoot his friend, and then maybe use a teleporter to teleport across the room to the third guard who's in the room and hit him with the wrench as well. Yeah. And you can do all that within the space of a second before the guards have a chance to react. But you have to kind of plan it out.
Yeah,
right? It's almost like a puzzle type thing, but you have to react to the situation. What's really cool is it's very much a sandbox type game where you're given a bunch of tools to do the job, right?
Yeah, very free to do what you want.
You find various weapons and other gear and stuff on your travels, and as you complete the missions, you can buy more stuff, and you just have all these different tools available to you, and you can sort of approach the level however you want.
Yeah.
I was actually a little frustrated when I first played the game because I was playing it wrong. I sort of went at it like a typical mission-based game where you take a mission, you have to complete that mission and go on to the next one, and realize that that's really not the way to do it. Your characters, you have an unlimited number of lives, right? An unlimited number of characters, and they're really expendable. So, if they die or if you fail a mission, it doesn't really matter, other than each character's gear and weapons is specific to that character. So if a character dies, you lose what they've accumulated. But it's fairly easy to go with a new character, do some low-level missions, get some stuff, and then you can build up your inventory again, and then to go on to some of the more harder missions again.
Right, because each character has kind of their own mini story arc where they have a motivation for doing what they're doing, but the overall scale of it is you're going to end up taking over other space stations, and that progression keeps with you no matter how many characters you use.
Right, yeah, you're just trying to liberate these different space stations and essentially conquer the galaxy map, I guess. I'm not even sure how far through the game I am, because I'm not really sure what the end game is. But I've been playing a lot of it because it's just been so much fun.
It is really enjoyable. I think my favorite part was I was trying to sneak up on a guy, and he saw me, and I was just out of wrench hitting range, so I went to throw it instead. Completely missed, bounced off the wall, and hit a window, and he got sucked out into space, and I laughed so hard that I didn't realize that I got sucked out into space at the same time. But then you can call your ship to come pick you up.
That's actually a valid tactic, is to blow out a window
completely
and
by
get sucked
accident.
into space.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. A lot of fun. Very sort of creative. You get to try out different things.
Yeah.
So another game I've been playing a little bit this week is Transport Fever. This is one that was released last year, and they recently came out with a fairly big patch that had a bunch of quality of life improvements, and so I sort of got back into it a little bit to try it out again. And fun game. It's a typical sort of tycoon type game where you're building a transport network. And, it's based mostly on trains, of course, and who doesn't love trains? But you also have trucks and buses and planes and boats, and so the idea is to sort of build up your transportation network, obviously make money so that you can then expand it further and buy more stuff, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, like a SimCity type of thing, but not a SimCity type of thing. But there's something about those managed games that I really enjoy. I've got a lot of hours in that one myself. as well as City Skyline, which I really like as well. Got a couple of 100 hours to combine between the two of them, which is a lot of fun. And like you said, who doesn't like trains? Other than Danny DeVito's mom. Don't worry about it.
And then the final game we wanted to mention this week is, of course, Star Wars Battlefront 2. The beta was just on this weekend, and we put some time into it. And man, is that a pretty game.
Wow, right? Yeah.
Graphically, just looks phenomenal. I mean, the first Star Wars Battlefront was very impressive. Somehow they've made this one look even better. Yeah, you're approaching photorealism.
Yeah, it's crazy. The technique they use to make that look so good is unbelievable. I think I spent the first 10 minutes shooting a tree. Just to see the bolts fly off, the smoke come out, and I mean it's beautiful. It really is beautiful.
Yeah. So we played a bunch of the multiplayer. The regular soldier-based stuff is really excellent. They've switched things up a bit now, so it's a class-based system. So there's 4 different classes that determine your weapon type that you have, and they have abilities and star cards and stuff. So they really try to add more complexity and depth to this one. That was a criticism of the first Star Wars Battlefront, was that it was very accessible, but wasn't very deep, and the sort of more hardcore gamers, there wasn't enough there. So they've seemed to really improve that.
Yeah, and it's a good balance, like you said, make it more accessible. So, I mean, this is the kind of game that's going to appeal to and be able to be played by a broader range than someone like a Call of Duty player or Destiny or something like that, in my opinion. But again, yes, they've gone so much deeper with, unlocking new weapons and unlocking mods for those weapons and the cards that you can switch up your abilities. You start off with 3, and you can essentially switch out all 3 eventually once you unlock them. So I really did like that. I'm hoping it's got a lot more content than the original, and they say it does. They say it's got a ton more content than the first one that they put out. I think the first one was more of a proof of concept almost, to just say, hey, look what we can do.
Yeah, and you mentioned Call of Duty and Destiny and those other first-person shooters. Battlefront has a very different feel to it. Yes. In fact, that took me a few rounds to sort of get the hang of it and get into it, because it does feel very different from those other shooters. You also have a third-person view you can switch to, which I preferred. I find you can actually have better situational awareness in the third-person view, so I ended up using that for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different enough game that you could easily play this alongside like a Call of Duty or something, and not feel like it's the same.
Agreed.
The same thing. Now, of course, the part of the game, we both really loved, is the new Starfighter battles.
Yeah.
Just amazing. They've nailed the feel of these ships, right? The flying an X-wing or a TIE fighter in a space battle, very, very cool.
Yeah.
It very much reminded me of the days playing X-Wing or TIE Fighter on the PC.
Loved those games. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, so, almost, we almost enjoyed that part of the game better than the...
I think I did, yeah. There's, and I figured, like, I'm a big X-Wing guy, right? So I love that, but I think I liked playing as the Empire even better. I don't know why, because, again... kind of like the the ground game, there are different classes, right, for your ships. Mm-hmm. You have the assault fighter, then you have the bomber and things like that, and each side has the a similar class.
Yeah, they each have the fighter, interceptor, or bomber, right?
Right. But there's something about flying a TIE fighter. There was something about flying the TIE fighter and coming up behind somebody and taking them out. It was just so enjoyable. To the point, I did better in that mode as well. Once you get enough points, you can unlock certain other ships to fly as until you die again. And I think I unlocked Boba Fett at least twice in one round. It was just so enjoyable. I really took to it. And I had to turn it up because the music kicks in and, iconic Star Wars music. And I'm in a zone when I'm playing that mode. Yep. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I found it's almost a separate game unto itself, and it's so different. The Starfighter battles are so different from the ground battles. It's like having 2 games, and I found when I was playing, I'd actually play a couple of rounds of ground battle, and then I'd play a couple of rounds of Starfighter battle, and even though you've only got one map essentially in each mode with the beta, kind of mixing it up that way, it kept it fresh.
It did, yeah.
So that was really cool. So just one news item of note we wanted to mention this week. It's not every week that you have a new console launched, and there was kind of a new old console last week, and that's the Super Nintendo Classic that was released by Nintendo. So this is a reimagining of the Super Nintendo, I guess. It's a small box that has it's got 21 Super Nintendo games preloaded on it. So there's no cartridges or anything. It's a self-contained box, but it's modeled to look like the original Super Nintendo.
Right.
And you can hook it up to your TV and play all these old classic Super Nintendo games.
So many cool games. You have Super Mario World, you have A Link to the Past, Mario Kart, and one of my favorites, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Pro tip, down R, up L, Y, B, X, A. That's going to give you your Super Turbo when you boot up the game upon first boot up. Don't ask why I know this and have memorized that from when I was a wee one, but that's just the way it is. Down R, up L, Y, B, X, A. You're welcome.
So this is, Nintendo did the Nintendo Classic, the NES Classic last year, and it was hugely popular. People want this nostalgic sort of being able to go back and play old games, and I got one of those and really enjoyed it. But there was very short supply, and Nintendo never really satisfied the demand for the NES Classic. They just, at some point just cut it off and said, we're not making any more. It almost seems like the Super Nintendo Classic is going the same way. We're already at the point where, the stores are sold out, there's huge demand, and we don't really know if Nintendo is going to be able to satisfy demand. And I don't really get it. This is a common Nintendo thing. They've been accused before of deliberately manufacturing a scarcity to drive up demand and hype. But I just don't get it with something like the Super Nintendo Classic, why they wouldn't produce more of them and satisfy that huge demand that they've got. It's
not like it's an Xbox or like they're manufacturing a PS4 Pro chipset. This should be fairly simple to do, seeing as most of those games I can play on my phone now. So I'd be really surprised. I did want to pick one up. The store I went to did say that they were expecting new stock, but I don't know how much new stock they're actually getting. Yeah. But I really want it for Donkey Kong Country and Super Metroid. I remember Contra, Contra 3. I remember beating Super Metroid back in my younger years. In the basement and screaming very loudly once I beat the final boss, and waking up my parents. And almost missing the fact that Samus is a female in a two-piece bikini under that suit. Who knew?
Yeah, Nintendo have had sort of similar issue with the Switch, with high demand and not being able to produce enough. And at least with the Switch, it is a more complicated box. There's a lot more parts they have to worry about. And even the Switch now is, here is 6 months after release, and they're still fighting to keep up with the demand for that, which seems even more strange that they bring out another box that they have to worry about producing enough of as well.
And especially this time of year with all the new games coming out, like Mario Odyssey, that's a system seller for me. I think I mentioned before, right? Yep. So I'm aiming to get me a Switch soon and Mario. Anywhere I've gone so far, some people are letting you order it online, and it's like when it comes. There's no guaranteed delivery date or anything like that.
Yeah, the Switch has been more popular than I think even Nintendo was expecting. Yeah. So I cut them some slack there with not being able to produce enough. But the SNES Classic, there's no reason they shouldn't have more of these on the shelf.
Agreed. Well, that's about it from us this week. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, and if you leave us a comment on this video or a question, we can address your questions on a future episode. We always want to hear your feedback. And keep an eye on our channel. Coming up this week, we're hopefully going to have an extra special video for you this week, so keep an eye out for that. But for now, for Insomniac Matt, I'm Limey Geek. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye!
Sorry, I was trying to think how to. I was like, can we segue? Can we go without cuts? I'm trying to think how to segue into Cuphead, but I can take a drink and you can say.
Speaking of cups.